runners as well. People are being urged right now to stay away from trash receptacles, garbage cans. Now, we have to say we do not know where this explosion or explosions originated, but in the past, we have heard of events where explosive devices have been stowed inside trash containers. So just as a precaution, I don't think this is based on intelligence. It's not based on any kind of real knowledge here, but as a precaution, people are being asked to stay away from garbage cans. In addition, we're also told that Copley Square has been evacuated because there are now fears, of course, that there could be other events in the offing. Oftentimes, what happens when you get into a situation like this, the uncertainty rules. The facts are few, and so rumors sometimes can take over. So undoubtedly, we will see a number of potential false alarms and bad tips, bad leads, that kind of thing. But of course, from the police posture, Scott, they have to take this as seriously as possible, and they have to take all due precautions. So we're in the opening minutes, really, of whatever it is that's going on there. And the police are kind of putting it together as they can. But for the moment, runners being redirected, people in Boston being told to stay away from anything where there could be concealment, specifically in this case, trash receptacles, Scott.
Bob, thank you very much, and we'll put you back on the air just as soon as you have more information. Thank you for all of that. The Associated Press is reporting that bloody spectators are being carried to the medical tent that had been set up to care for fatigued runners. Police were running through the competition immediately after the explosion, trying to, as Bob was telling us, warn runners away from the finish line area. One man who was a runner in the race and identified himself as Frank Dutrier of North Carolina said, quote, "There are a lot of people down." Now, we have been able to see that in this videotape. This is Boylston Street in Boston, the finish line of the Boston Marathon. Many people have been injured in what witnesses are describing as two explosions. Bob Orr has told us at least a dozen, probably more persons have been injured. We do not have any confirmation at this point of fatalities there. We now have on the phone CBS producer Kylie Atwood. And Kylie, what can you tell us?
Hey, Scott, I can tell you I was here at the marathon. I was standing on Boylston in between Dartmouth and Exeter, and I was right, the last 20 yards where the marathoners were running by, and on my left, a huge explosion went off. We ran to the right, and then we basically ran into the second explosion, and it looked like it was coming out of the storefront, and then suddenly there were 4 people on the ground around us and a police officer carrying a child in his hands. And I have some photos of those. I'm not sure if anyone's died yet, but more reports will be coming.
Kylie, was that child injured, best you could tell?
Yes. It was a young boy. He looked like he was about 3 years old.
Now, Kylie, help us understand, where was the explosion exactly there on Boylston Street as it relates to the finish line? There's a big photo stand there where photographers take pictures of the winners. Is that roughly where the explosion was?
Yeah, it looks like the first one went off right next to the finish line, and then the second one went off. If you go down Boylston towards the Mass Pike, that was where the second one went off, and it was about probably 200 meters down the road.
Kylie, can you describe what the explosion sounded like, and what, if anything, did you see?
Well, the first one was a really loud noise, but it almost sounded like it was a celebration of sorts, and then we looked to our left, and suddenly there was smoke everywhere, people screaming. And so that's when everyone started running, and you could smell kind of a sulfur type sensation in the air, and that's when you knew that it was pretty bad.
And how long after that did the second explosion occur?
The second explosion occurred, I'd say maybe 3 minutes later, but I'm not exactly sure because we were running around and a little bit scared.
Now we're listening to Kylie Atwood, who's a CBS News producer, who is in Boston, a witness to the explosions. If you're just joining us now, Many people have been injured at the Boston Marathon, right at the finish line on Boylston Street, where there were two loud explosions. We have a photograph here that apparently caught the moment in time of one of those explosions. It is just off the street in the sidewalk area near the finish line on Boylston Street. Again, many people have been injured. We've been seeing them on videotape being removed from the area. We do not know whether anybody has been killed, and we do not know what has caused these two explosions. At least 12 people have been hurt, we are told by the authorities, but judging from the videotape, I suspect that that number is going to go up. We have seen many people who are hurt, who are bleeding, but are also conscious. You can see there in the videotape in the background, many windows have been blown out of the buildings there along Boylston Street and by the finish line. Apparently very powerful explosions there. This is videotape that was shot within the last half hour of the immediate aftermath of these two explosions, with soldiers pulling debris out of the way so that rescue workers can get to the injured lying on the sidewalk there at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. The winners of the Boston Marathon ran through there some time ago, but many, many runners were on the course, are still on the course, finishing up the marathon today. Bob Orr has told us that he has spoken to his sources in federal law enforcement, and so far there's no indication of anyone accepting any kind of responsibility for this, if indeed it is some sort of deliberate attack. We do not know that. Still, of course, a possibility that this was an accident of some kind.